experienced this as well. If so, please feel free to share your stories in the comment section. I'm curious to read them. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where no matter how thoughtfully you listen, no matter how carefully you respond, or no matter how genuinely you try to help, the other person seems determined, almost committed, to remain stuck in their problem? You sit there, patiently hearing them out, nodding along as they detail every twist and turn of their dilemma. And when they finally pause, looking to you for some kind of response, you offer them what you think they want: a solution, a way out. But instead of relief or gratitude, what you get is a litany of reasons why that won't work. It's not that simple. I've already tried that, or you don't understand. It's as if they're not actually seeking advice. They're auditioning for the role of most miserable person in the room, and they're freaking nailing it. They don't want a way out. They want an audience. They want validation for their suffering, not liberation from it. And honestly, it's exhausting. Now, don't get me wrong. Everyone has bad days. We all need to vent sometimes, to air out our frustrations and feel heard. That's human. But there's a difference between venting and living in a perpetual state of complaint. Venting is a release. It's a momentary purge of negative emotion to clear space for clarity. Chronic complaining, however, is different. It's a habit. It's a mindset. A refusal to move beyond the problem because deep down, staying miserable feels easier than making the effort to change. And that's what really gets to me. It's not the complaining itself, but the resistance to solutions, the stubbornness of it. It's like watching someone trapped in a room with the door wide open, yet they keep insisting that there's no way out. You point to the door, they shake their head. You walk over, open it even wider, and they say, "Yeah, but the hallway's probably cold." You could lead them out there by the hand, and they'll still find a reason to turn back. What's even more baffling is that often these people think they want help. They'll say, "What should I do?" Or, "I just don't know how to fix this." But the moment you offer an answer, they shoot it down like their misery depends on it. Because, well, in a way it does. Misery can be oddly comforting. It requires nothing of you. No risk, no effort, no vulnerability. Just sit there, stew in it, and let the world come to you with sympathy. But here's the thing. Sympathy doesn't solve problems. Attention doesn't create change. Wallowing doesn't move the needle. Action does. Effort does. Taking ownership of your circumstances, no matter how unfair, how difficult, or how overwhelming, that's where growth begins. And yes, it's hard. Change is uncomfortable. Solutions often require sacrifice, persistence, and a willingness willingness to face things that we'd rather avoid. But isn't that better than being stuck? I've come to realize that for some people, the complaint isn't just about the problem itself. It's about the story that they've built around it. The narrative of being the victim, the one who's always struggling, always let down, always unlucky. That story becomes their identity. And when you offer a solution, you're not just challenging their problem, you're challenging the role they've cast themselves in. You're asking them to rewrite the script, to become the hero instead of the victim. And that's terrifying if you've spent years believing that the world is something that happens to you rather than something you can actively shape. But here's the truth. We all have more control than we think we do. Life throws curveballs, sure. Some people face challenges that are genuinely daunting, unfair, and outright heartbreaking. I'm not dismissing that. But even in the toughest situations, there's always a choice. Not always in what happens to us, but in how we respond. Do we sit in the mess, complaining about the smell, or do we get up and start cleaning? It's not about toxic positivity. I'm not suggesting we slap a smile on our faces and pretend everything's fine when it's not. Feel your feelings. Acknowledge your struggles. But don't stop there. Don't set up camp in the problem and call it home. Use that discomfort as fuel. Let it motivate you to do something, anything, that moves you closer to a solution, even if it's just one small step. And if you're someone who finds yourself stuck in that cycle of complaint, ask yourself, do I really want to solve this, or do I just want to be heard? Because if it's the latter, that's okay. Sometimes we just need to be heard. But be honest about it. Don't confuse the desire for comfort with the desire for change. They're not the same. What I find most frustrating isn't, again, just the endless complaining. It's the wasted potential behind it. Every minute spent circling the same problem without action is a minute lost to what could have been done. It's energy poured into reinforcing the issue instead of resolving it. And over time, that adds up. Not just in missed opportunities, but in the erosion of confidence, resilience, and hope. Because the longer you stay stuck, the more you start to believe that stuck is all you'll ever be. It doesn't have to be that way, because every single one of us is capable of change. We're not trees, we aren't rooted to one spot, unable to move. We have legs, we have minds, we have voices, and probably most importantly, we have choices. Life isn't a script written in permanent ink. It's more like a draft with endless revisions. But you can't revise a page if you're too busy rereading the same paragraph over and over, highlighting the parts you hate and complaining that the story isn't better. And maybe that's part of the problem. People get so attached to their grievances that they don't realize they're treating them like cherry Stagnation is its own kind of failure, just slower, more insidious. It's the quiet kind that creeps up on you, disguised as comfort, until one day you look around and realize nothing has changed. Not because you couldn't, but because you wouldn't. I've seen it happen to people, smart people, capable people, who spend years trapped in the same cycles because they convinced themselves that their problems were unsolvable. The truth is, most problems aren't unsolvable. They're just uncomfortable to solve. Solutions require change. Change demands effort, discomfort, and sometimes even a little pain. Growth isn't supposed to be easy. It's why it's called growing pains. But those pains are temporary. The regret of never trying will last a lifetime. Think about people you admire, the ones who inspire you. Are they the ones who sat around complaining, waiting for life to get easier? Or are they the ones who faced challenges head on, stumbled, fell, and got back up again? They didn't get where they are by making excuses. They didn't achieve anything by listing all of the reasons something couldn't be done. They took action, even when it was hard, even when it wasn't guaranteed to succeed. And that's the key. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be willing. Willing to try, willing to fail, willing to learn, willing to take one small step, even if you're not sure where it's going to lead. Because momentum is powerful. Once you start moving, it gets easier to keep going. Action breeds clarity. You don't have to have it all figured out from the start. Just do something, anything, that shifts you from passive to active. And if you're still sitting there thinking, but you don't understand my situation, you're right, I don't. I don't know your specific struggles. I don't know the details of your challenges. But I do know this. Excuses are universal, and so is the choice to move beyond them. Everyone has reasons why something is hard. The question is, do you want to be defined by your reasons or your results? It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to feel stuck. What's not okay is to let those feelings become your permanent address. Life isn't waiting for you to be ready. It's happening right now, whether you participate or not. So why not participate? Why not take ownership of your own story? At the end of the day, complaining without action is a choice. A choice to focus on what's wrong to stop and ask, what am I doing about it? Not thinking about, not talking about, doing. Because that's the difference between staying stuck and moving forward. That's the difference between living in frustration and living in fulfillment. And the best part, you get to choose that. You get to choose every single day. So choose action. Choose growth. Choose to be the person who doesn't just talk about problems, but actually solves them. If you enjoyed this